Welcome back to Cryptos Are Us. I am George. We're all George. So tonight I won't be streaming. However, I do have a video for you guys. One that talks about institutional adoption, why they're all FOMOing in right now, and also, more importantly, why the 4-year cycle is so important to Bitcoin. Some of you guys are new to this space. You might not understand what the 4-year cycle is, or why the last year or the last 3 months of that last year is so bullish. You may have heard me stream talk about not to miss these last 3 months of this year and this cycle. You may be wondering why. So I did an interview earlier this year with Kevin of Meet Kevin, and I explained the significance of the 4-year cycle and also about institutional adoption, why institutional investors are FOMOing in right now, and both are very, very important, and the biggest reasons why Bitcoin is going higher and why it's going to go even higher than where it is now. Now, before I show you that clip, I did want to talk about a few things. First of all, Bitcoin is still holding strong at 62.4. This morning it was around 62. It climbed a little bit higher. Obviously, we're not back to 65 yet, but Bitcoin does look like it's ready to move this weekend and next week, since we are moving into November. Outside of Bitcoin, the entire market cap is doing fantastic, still holding above 2.7 trillion. And that's because you have Ethereum that have formed a new high today, and others that are just doing very well today. Metaverse coins, NFT coins are doing very, very well. So overall, the market is really healthy, just like Bitcoin. Lastly, I want to talk about my new collection, the I Am George collection, that is now available on OpenSea. This morning I revealed it, but in case you didn't watch that stream, I'm going to reveal it again. So this has been something I've been working on for quite some time, been trying to find the right idea, the right artist, and finally everything is done, and I had the very first 5 available for auction. And you could see it's basically me in my room with different variations. Some with a different poster, some with a different background item, and of course the shirt and color and glasses and eyes and everything else is different. And there are a lot of special benefits to holding these I Am George NFTs, including getting free merchandise, exclusive access to Q&A sessions, and also exclusive access to my special Discord channel only for holders. And there's so much more. There's so much more to be announced. There's a lot of benefits that you get by being a holder. And to add on top of that, a lot of you guys are aware that I do have this year-end giveaway. 5 ETH being given away at the end of the year. Now, I have this on my Twitter in case you don't know about it. If you go to Cryptos Are Us Twitter, yes, I did change my avatar profile picture, but it is pinned at the very top. So if you want to win, check it out because there's only 63 days left. Over 700,000 entries, quite a lot of entries. And I did add one new entry, and that is the I Am George NFT code, which it gets you 200 entries. Only NFT holders, I Am George NFT holders, will get this special code. So this is another benefit to holding I Am George NFT. But if you don't want one, you can't afford one, that's okay. There is a lot of other ways to win entries. 5 winners will win 1 ETH each, and that could be enormous. ETH could be at 5, 10, 15,000 by the end of the year. So I will be giving 5 ETH away. And nulls have contributed 4,000 nulls, which will also be raffled off at the end of the year. All right, that's enough me talking. Now, let me show you the clip and have a good one. I think the number one question is, are we coming to a top? Is Bitcoin going to repeat like what happened with 2017, right, and previous cycles? And I view this cycle very, very different from previous cycles. So short answer, no, I don't think we topped out. But long answer is, I think people don't realize that traditionally in the past, Bitcoin follows this thing called 4-year cycle. And it's 4 years because according to the code, every 4 years, there's a halving event where the number of Bitcoins that gets produced per block gets cut in half. which makes Bitcoin more scarce, which decreases the inflation rate, basically, essentially. So based on that, usually the first 3 years of that cycle, Bitcoin tends to come down. And the fourth year is when you have that explosive growth, and usually it tops out, and then the cycle starts over again. It tops out, comes down, and then it starts another 4-year cycle. So 2020 was when the last halving event occurred. So 2021 is technically the fourth year of the cycle, which is the most explosive year, which, we should see tremendous gains this year, and we have already. But I think what's different this time around is institutional adoption, which never occurred before.
Sure.
So that's a big thing. That's a big driver. We're seeing Bitcoin get pushed to over $1 trillion in market cap, which, not too long ago would just seem like it's impossible, right? When Bitcoin was down to 3,800 back in 2020, no one thought that realistically Bitcoin could get to 50,000 or 100,000 this quick, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's because of institutional adoption. There's so many institutions and even public trade companies. Everyone is jumping in because they need a Bitcoin strategy at this point, and that's why it's very different now than previous years. So that's a long answer to that.
Yeah. You just mentioned they need a Bitcoin strategy, aka these institutionals. Isn't it possible that institutional investors are just seeing retail buyers and retail households going, hey, we want some exposure to Bitcoin? And is it maybe that institutional investors are kind of just following retail investors here? Or is this like institutional investors actually understand it better than retail? Like, are they ahead of us or are they behind us, right? Are they playing catch up? Where are they?
I think institutions are definitely behind the retail investors in this space. Bitcoin has always, done its thing within the last 11, 20, 12 years. A lot of volatility, but basically it held on, it held true, and kept going because you have a collective group of people that really believe in it. Some people believe in Bitcoin because they see it as a store of value. Some people see it as a way to disrupt the central banks of the world and what they're doing, right? Especially like right now, we see that, right? So there's many reasons why. So retail investors held strong. And you could equate that with many things, even non-crypto, even equity-wise, like if you look at Tesla stock, or Apple, back in the day, right? You have a collective group of people that really believed in it and just really carried it no matter what Wall Street or anyone else said, right? So I think Bitcoin was led by retail investors. Now institutional investors, they see it and they don't quite understand it, but what I'm seeing is they're kind of FOMOing in. So, retail investors are known for FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. But institutions are now doing that too, because you have a couple guys that really set the bar. Even someone like Cathie Wood, she has come out and said very good things about Bitcoin. And of course, I don't know if you know Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy. Yeah. Of course, he's
all in.
Yeah, he made a big splash. Came out of nowhere. No one knew who he was until pretty much the end of 2020, and said, "I'm putting all my money from MicroStrategy into Bitcoin." And he really opened people's eyes. And same thing with people like Cathie Wood and Scott Miner of Guggenheim and all these guys. They're just saying nothing but good things now. Even the banks that were very traditionally very anti-crypto and Bitcoin, they're all coming out with trading desks or custodian services, and they're all jumping in, right? So now that's why I think everyone's looking at Bitcoin and coming up with a strategy with it. Is some may not even realize what the main benefit is, but they can't be left out. So that's why I feel like a lot are just FOMOing in at this point. But of course, there's a lot that really understand it too.
Yeah. What do you say to people who are like, hey, sure, maybe the institutions are getting in, but they're getting in just to like sell their funds. Nobody's fundamentally valuing it, right? That fundamental analysis argument always comes up. Like, is this just, somebody's willing to pay more than the next guy?
So there's a couple people, I won't name names, that will say Bitcoin has no intrinsic value.
Sure.
And the thing is, I think most people that kind of know little about finance, and I don't claim to be a very financial guy. I don't know all the inner workings, but I do know that something like the USD is not backed by gold anymore. Hasn't been for decades, right? So a lot of people still look at it that way, like Bitcoin is digital. It's not backed by anything. There's no intrinsic value. But you look at something like the USD, it also is not backed by anything. And what's worse is the USD is inflated. Before it was 2% every year. Now it's a lot more because of all the printing that was done last year and this year, right? So, so this notion that it has no value or that someone will only buy it just to sell it to someone else, at a higher price. But that's how anything works.
That's true.
Right?
Stock, real estate. I mean, it's true. Somebody's got to pay me more for it. Otherwise it's valueless. So, I mean, I guess that's just sort of like a redundant argument. Like, yeah, it's an asset. Like, that's how it works.
Exactly. I mean, some people will make the point like, oh, Bitcoin is not as good as gold because it's not physical. And if there's a power grid out, like an Armageddon situation and all the electrical power grids go down, then Bitcoin is useless. Well, in that case, I would argue gold would be useless. Bullets and food and basic necessities would actually rise in value, right? So you can't argue that just because Bitcoin is digital, it's not worth anything. This notion of you have to make a profit by selling to someone higher. That's anything. Real estate,
good point.
Collectibles, cards, priceless art, even like things like NFTs. They all work on the same premise.